It's a time for Pick It from China. Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in. In this new package from China, we're going to take a close look at this HDMI all-in-one solution for Sega Mega Drive or Genesis games. I've been reviewing all kinds of different solutions, but this is a Sega Genesis one model, completely plug and play ready. We have all kinds of different products when it comes to the Sega Genesis HDMI solution from China. But this is just like a very interesting way you can even play AV out, but also HDMI. And I want to particularly focus on the HDMI functionality. These things come in very nice boxes, but how is it with the overall quality? And does this thing smell any chemical? Because some of them are really horrible. They will include 6-button controllers and they're also wireless. However, when you're looking at the quality, this is not the same things that we have like Retrobit or other brands. We do have the floating D-pad, but the controller feel is really bad. You cannot switch in between play 1 and play 2. What you see is what you're getting, and the controller quality is pretty poor. However, this has a compartment for 2 AAA batteries. Will give you a couple of hours of play time, depending on what kind of, let's say, batteries you're using. They're including a European over here and power supply, but the voltage is kind of weird, having something of 7.5 volts. So okay, so it's going to be a nightmare if you need to find a replacement for this freaking thing. So there is no toilet paper manual today. This is the only thing we're getting. And here we have this newer version, or this is what they're claiming, the HD Ultra wireless gamepad, on switch. This thing is very lightweighted. We do have the slider for the stereo. This is kind of cool that they even implemented this. 2 ports for controllers, so we can use original ones. The downside is there is no option for the CD option. So it's kind of a stupid thing that they do have this removable cover, but there is no way that we can actually use it. So you cannot upgrade it with something else. In here we're having AV out, we have an HDMI out, input for the power supply. We do have a region switch over here for different regions. So that's kind of cool. But that's it. It says over here, the Mega Drive Genesis from Retroid. That's a company that has released a more premium, let's say that's not like going to be Sega quality, but a little bit more premium when it comes to the overall quality. It starts with the dust covers. If you're going to be looking at it very closely, you can just see that they don't even close that great. So it's one of those quality things. Another checkup that we need to do is how is it with the game cartridges. Can we just plug them in and remove them fairly easy? You can just hear that the pins are squeezing the cartridges, but removing them is going to be in pain like always. But first impression is absolutely horrible, and that has a simple reason, because we do have interference throughout the HDMI connection. Yep, this is one of those things I have seen before with Super NES models, but never seen with the Sega. So we're going to be using a different monitor to see if this is an HDMI problem itself or the monitor. However, the controller, that's another story. So where this thing does work, but it is old technology, so we need to point it towards the console to actually get anything going on. But the unfortunate part is, even if we're going to be getting a different older monitor with HDMI, the problems lies into the Sega Genesis of China. So that's a little bit of a downside when it comes to this. So the only thing that we can actually do is getting into the switch, maybe reset that. If this is like a software part, that's the next thing we can do. But you can see we still have some vibration going on. So, yep, they sent me another faulty product. And it happens a lot when it comes to these things from China sometimes. So I wanted to try out another thing. So let's see if we can plug in an original controller. But this original controller also doesn't work at all. Yep, we're off to a great start. So let's see what happens if we're going to be removing the batteries. So there is no communication even possible through the fake controller, because this thing is absolutely horrible too. But nope. Okay. There we go. So when you're going to be plugging in a controller, you need to make sure that this thing doesn't have any batteries whatsoever. And it's getting only worse throughout the game. Oh man, it's such an annoying thing that is like none of those, let's say, freaking things work normally. So this thing that I can see when you're looking at the image quality is not super bad. Also, aspect ratio is not possible throughout the system itself, another epic fail, but you know, this glitching thing is completely unnecessary. and I don't understand why they completely messed this part up. So let's try a different game, let's see if this keeps doing. Maybe it's a problem with the game itself. But somehow with the Xenocrisis game we had some issues. We don't have this with the Turtles Tournament Fighter. When I'm looking at, let's say, the colors and everything, it seems to be looking quite good. But later on maybe it would be a fun thing to do in comparison with, let's say, a retro scaler or an original system with a cheap upscaler, just to see how it compares to each other. When it comes to emulation, or at least we call this emulation, the gameplay itself. So let's move on to some original games with the Sonic the Hedgehog. But you can just hear that the audio is not like supposed to be. That sound, that sounds completely off. But so far, actually playing the game, so let's move on to another homebrew game. This is Street Rage 2 with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Let's see if it also has the flickering thing going on, or does it work perfectly? Okay, no, it does work perfectly. So that's kind of interesting to see. Oh, that sound. Oh. But let's do some quick tests. First of all, the flash card. Let's see if we can actually boot up the flash card and can we play a game. And it seems to be that it's going to be booting up. That's great, play a game. Ha! Okay, so that means that we do have the need for the switch. Let's reset it. Let's see if it resets into the game or the flash card. Okay, boots up the game. Ah, there we go. So that seems to be working great. Yep, we can flash games, we can play them on this, no problem whatsoever. And the region switch also seems to be working fine. Of course the sound effects are exactly the same result. But let's move on to something else. Let's have some fun with this. So let's grab the cartridge. Let's switch it back to, I think this is now set to the PAL region. Let's see if this thing does anything. There we go. Is this with the Sonic 3 Knuckles? Yep, so it also supports the combination cartridge. And then of course, last but not least, we're having the multi-game card. So I've been trying to get this thing to work before like a recording, because I wanted to test some stuff. But it takes forever to actually get something going on. There we go. And let's choose some basic gaming. And it indeed start up the game as it is. So it's compatible with flash cards, but also with multi-game cards. So I'm quite disappointed in some ways, particularly when it comes for playing the games. I mean, it's kind of a downside that we can't play my favorite game, Xenocrisis. And this is one of the first times that I ever experienced a system that couldn't run the game. Seriously, even the cheaper ones that had a cartridge slot that cost like a fraction of this freaking thing had the option to play it. So I don't know what's going on over there, but let's remove all of the 6 screws. And yep, what we're going to be doing, we're going to be breaking the seal. Wicked feels naughty today. And let's take a close look in the inside. Well, let's take a close look in the inside of the game system. I always need to be very careful. There's some wire somewhere attached to something. And oh man, what is this freaking thing? One huge mess in the inside. There is even PCB just dangling around. So I have seen my share of, let's say, weird, let's say, Sega devices or from China, but this is absolutely the next level. At the front we're finding a PCB that says over here 2017. Yep, where actually this first PCB has been made. So this is for the controller itself, but it also has the ribbon cable that goes to the other PCB over here that is just dangling around. And at the left, the one goes to the PCB for the power. So that brings us to the left PCB over here for the slider for the headphone jack out, some capacitors over here, and a micro switch for the reset, and then slider for the on and off. And yep, you always, I think if you have one of these things laying around in the closet, you'd always maybe open it up and check if none of those capacitors are leaking already. But how about the chip they're using? They're most of the time using these TCT chips inside of them, and that's the reason why it sounds so off, because that's just a general problem. So it's not perfect overall emulation when it comes to this. So in here finding more capacitors, even some wires glued into the system itself. Very strange place if you ask me, but what's going on this is kind of interesting, because I don't know why they even having these two wires over here. That makes no sense. And in the middle we're finding another PCB that's just floating around, and this PCB has even a wireless connectivity. But will these be for the controllers? It's quite difficult to say. And the last PCB is having over here is one for the on-off switch, the region switch that has been connected, I'm guessing, to this one over here. And this also have the HDMI and the output and the input for the power supply. So this actually when it comes to the tour of the inside of the Sega, or the fake Sega from China. But I wanted to do some more testing on the device itself. So what happens if you're going to be powering it on? Some of them, like this one, has even a multi-card built in. Yep, 170 in one. And the games are quite interesting. For example, having here Battle City. That is a modified version of the NES game running on actually the Mega Drive or the Genesis. So the overall game list, it's not bad. Like Echo, Echo 2, Echo Junior. So where you don't have maybe some games laying around, there are already a couple of them built in. But let's see how they will boot up. You can hear, I don't know if the camera or actually the microphone picks it up. We do have some, let's say, zooming sound going on. But yeah, wow, this is absolutely not a bad list at all. Even Mortal Kombat Ultimate 3 is on here. So that is crazy. And Street of Rage, look at that. And let's boot it up. It's the Japanese version. I think that's to do with the region. But, you know, there are a lot of built-in and great games in here. Let's reset it. Let's see what happens. It will automatically go back to the menu. Desert Strike. Echo Junior. Even Golden Axe. Kind of weird that not Golden Axe 2 on here, but Golden Axe 1 and 3. Frogger. Growl. So when you're looking at it, it's just crazy. But let's try another game. One of them is I love about is rock and roll racing. Ha! That's kind of cool. Okay, so it shows actually that I have not the right system. Okay, but resetting, I'm guessing it goes back to the menu. So we need to switch between certain regions. And another thing is that this thing is actually on alphabetic order. That's crazy. So the built-in games are just great. Seems to be working so far, I've tested them. But can we actually use a master system converter? That was a question I got a very long time ago. However, I picked one up particularly for reviewing, but also for testing it out on the Chinese console, because it was quite a good question. Does it actually fit and how does it work? So let's plug this thing on there. The form factor is the same when it comes to the device itself, but will this fit perfectly? Let's see. No. Where this thing fits perfectly when it comes to the shell, it doesn't fit, because I can feel that there is no connection going on. If you have no console whatsoever and you're searching for a cheap solution, you don't care about the audio quality and you just want to have something to play the old games, yeah, this Sega Genesis is maybe one of the best ones you can actually buy from China, where I've reviewed a lot of them. So the compatibility with a lot of different games, but also flash cards and multi-cards, make this thing very interesting. Yeah, let me know in the comments what do you think of this, let's say, device. Thank you all for watching, consider subscribing, and it would be great to see you in the next video.